I know that the more offers we make, the more success we have. For everyone who's new, I always say, like, there's no cheat code that I found. It's just putting the work in.
I think that's what we do really well at WCG Investments, just to understand, like, okay, that didn't work. Let's not do that again, because that would be crazy. And learn from there and do it better and better. And once we know what works, we stick to it. And I think that's what we're doing over and over again. Hello everyone. We got myself here, Matthias Grunwald, and my partner Tim Woodbridge today. Tim, say hello to everybody. All right. Vinny is out today, so we do a little bit of a different spin today on this little update, what we do at WCG Investments. So we give you a little bit of a look behind the curtains and give you an update what we're working on, what is closing soon, and what are the next projects we're going to tackle in the future. So with that, I'm going to pass it to Tim, and he gives a little bit of an update on the high-level items, and then from there we just have a very natural conversation and ask ourselves some questions, what we're working on and what we like, what we don't like, and what else is in the pipeline for us and our investors. Tim, what you got?
Thanks, Matthias. Yeah, a lot of this call is going to be pretty much the calls that Matthias and I get on and like, let's discuss the ins and outs of this. How do these deals work? How do they not work? How can we, make sure that we're being conservative with what we're doing? But yeah, first, so let's see, the Oxford, Alabama deal, or, Anniston, Oxford County, Alabama. So I just signed all the paperwork yesterday. You signed the paperwork and you're mailing it in. I went to the bank and wired almost $2.3 million worth of money. And the banker said that it was the most that she's ever wired. So that's a total vanity metric for me. I felt good about that. But yeah, really, the seller's going to be signing on Monday. Everything is looking like Monday's going to be the day to close. And yeah, just excited to get into that park or into those parks and close it, get it up and running and all that fun stuff. And yeah, it feels like it's been a while since we've been looked at this initially, which was like a year ago, right? So, sometimes things take time to close in real estate. Yeah, that's Oxford. You talk about Sherwood.
Yeah, sounds good. Before we go to Sherwood, I also want to mention, like, this deal, like you just said, we've been working on since September 2025. And the time of this recording, we have mid-July 2026, so it's almost a year it took us from first look to closing. And sometimes it takes that long, and we walk into some major equity in this deal, right? Which is amazing. So we're already halfway there from a valuation perspective between, closing day to exit in year 7. We're already halfway there with how much equity you have on day 1, which is amazing. Moving on to Sherwood. So Sherwood Forest, we bought that 2 years ago, almost exactly 2 years ago. I think we closed early September 2024. Refinancing it now with CMBS loan. CMBS, we did the webinar before a few weeks ago, just to give everybody an update why we chose CMBS on this. So right now, we're in the final stretches right now of getting it closed. At the moment, we are looking at some insurance requirements which have to be tightened up. They came up at the 11th hour. There's a few homes in a flood zone, but they're all tenant-owned homes. The lender before, which is a national lender, didn't really care about covering the business income on these 11 units, but with CMBS, they are really on the conservative and risk-adverse side of things insurance-wise, so we still have to tighten up some insurance metrics there. There's some back and forth on coverage limits and stuff like that, so it's extremely granular conversations at the moment. But we should have something here today, actually, or at the latest Monday morning. So we're really just days away to getting that closed. Tim is doing his fingers crossed right now in the background. Fingers crossed on my end too. So that's been a long closing process. Actually, to be quite honest, longer than we expected it's going to be just for a refinance. And it's kind of a little bit of a feature or bug, if you will. Looking forward to getting that closed, and that will enable us to pay all investor capital back. So everybody has the initial capital that they invested from less than 2 years ago back at their hands, and then they will remain in the deal with the same equity as before and receive basically infinite returns and receive cash flow going forward. So super excited about that and looking forward to getting those major ACHs out to our investors and put a smile on their face. Yeah, next one. You want to talk about Cape Woods, Tim, and what we just got on the contract there?
Yeah, and I'm going to do what you did and say also one other thing about Sherwood.
Yeah, it works.
So, yeah, we were talking about the keeping everyone in the same equity position. And you were saying how in other groups that you're part of and, groups that I'm part of, keeping people in with the same equity is rare. It's very generous of us. And the thing that always comes back to my mind is I want to keep doing this for a long, long, long time. I want it to be so good for our investors that it's a no-brainer to keep putting money in with us. So, yeah, sure. Could we have set this up ahead of time as like a 50-50 split, after investors get their capital? Could we have set it up as a where we own 100% of the deal after people get their capital back? Yeah, sure we could have, because this is, it's so good, it's easily getting those returns. But at the end of the day, we're like, how can we treat everyone again so they keep coming back and back and back, and we just keep getting richer and richer together? I'm super proud that we're doing that, and that's our business plan. Anyway, yeah, on to Cape Woods. Gosh, what's new with Cape Woods? The RV park deal, the long-term RV park. I mean, it's so funny because we've talked about, well, what about this? What about this? What about this? What if this bank comes in and we only get this, and so on and so forth? And we keep saying, yeah, that we're going to kill the deal, or the deal's not going to work because of this. And it does. It just keeps working. So, like, that's just how we do our business planning. It's like, okay, what happens if the worst case scenario happens? Oh, it's still good returns for people? Okay, let's keep looking at it. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, of Cape Woods, just to remind the listeners, it's a 200 unit RV park, which is mainly long term. So you're really 95% plus is long term tenants. Some of them have been there for decades. And then when you walk through that park, you can see some have like permanent structures attached to their campers. So it's a pretty cool park and a very amazing location. Right now, as we speak, we go through the financial audit right now. We always do during due diligence. That means we look for all the bank statements from the last 12 months or even 2 years if we get as much from the seller, and compare that to the general ledger that we get from their system, from their accounting system, and make sure everything matches from every expense line item to every income line item, and then the NOI, net income, everything matches. At that point, we have, a list of capex they spent on the last 10 years and see if that shows up and reconciles to the financials to see what they spend money on. Is there repeated issues with the septic systems? Are there repeated issues with any of the structures that exist? And there's not many, because it's just an office, an Airbnb. Then you have some bathhouses and like one storage shed, and basically everything else is tenant owned, which is amazing. This is the big thing we're working on because that kills the deal early. So that's why we do that very early in due diligence before we waste more bandwidth on other things. If that doesn't check out, we're moving on proudly. We definitely kill the deal from there. So we should have some results early next week. So we have more to report in our next webinar. One thing we're working on with, the elephant in the room is this park in Buxton, North Carolina. That's on the Outer Banks. It's an island in the middle of the ocean. So insurance is a wild card, obviously. And we've been working on this before we got on a contract, even talking to our insurance broker, who's a master in finding the right coverage. So we're going back and forth with what coverages we need and what the lender is requiring, because every lender has different requirements and that can widely shift the insurance expense. So we're also approaching the lender that currently the seller has on the property, because they have pretty cheap insurance on it considering the location. So we're working on that right now. So lots of progress, lots of movement from very different angles. Other part of the team is looking at Google reviews and reputation of the park, and looking at crime in the area, etc., and anything that stands out. And so far, we haven't been able to kill it yet, which is a good thing. We're trying to. So it looks really good on Cape Woods. I'm pretty happy. Once we have the insurance thing figured out, I think we're solid, and I think we can definitely proceed from here and be early in due diligence. Just start this week, and then we're gonna go there one more time with the team. I just talked to the guy that does the financial review this morning about going there the next couple of weeks so we can check the property out one more time, check occupancy one more time, unit count, talk to community managers, even talk with them about our business plan and make sure that holds water. So yeah, it's really just rinse and repeat, man. It's always the same when we buy properties, even if this one's slightly different, but it's not really. It's kind of the same long-term tenant base like we have on mobile home parks, but it's just a more like a trophy asset, prime location with wealthier tenants, right? This is their second home. So we don't have to be timid with rent increases if we are 40 to 50% on the market rents on that park. And that's a reality right now. So it's a little bit of a different strategy, but overall the same thing, again, same playbook. So what we do really well, our portfolio. So yeah, I think that's it on Cape Woods. Do we want to move on to Maine, or you still have something to say on Cape Woods?
So they say.
There you go.
So, part of the reason why I want to kill it is because, like, on the surface, you think about it and it's different than what we usually do. And I was talking to someone the other day and they're like, how did you find this? And like, why are you guys going after it? If it's an RV park, how come the bigger RV park guys aren't going after it? And I said, well, it's different. It's not like a traditional RV park where it's people are in and out. It's everyone's long term. And again, it's their second home, but they pay for the whole year. This is like, hey, spot number 27 is mine. I leave my RV there. I have all my stuff around and it's mine. So I pay for the whole year in January. And so traditional RV park guys and girls aren't really into it because it's different. Your mobile home park people like us generally aren't into it either because, oh, it's RV park. I only do mobile home. And so, like, that's where our advantage is here is that we say, okay, at first we wrote it off, but the broker said, hey, I know you guys. I think this is something that you'd be into. Right? This fits into your strategy. And so that caused us to take a step back and actually look at it and see, okay, how does this fit into what we usually do? And so we said, oh, well, long-term tenants, low expense ratio, even though it's an RV park, but since it's long-term, your expense ratio historically has been low. And even, we underwrote it a little bit higher as we generally do. It's still in line with our mobile home park stuff, even with, full-time people on site. It's slightly under market rents. So like, again, it's a relatively simple and easy to execute business plan. That's how it's different for us in that we're small enough where we can look at this and be like, okay, yes, we'll look into it. It's not a, hey, this is all we do. It's like, no, like every deal, we look at the entire business plan and we see, where's the opportunity? And that's where we can come in and turn this into a lot higher valuation in a few years per pro forma. That's Cape Woods. And then the new one on top of that, we have a friend who is in another of our deals and is 1031ing into some, looking to do it into some mobile home parks. And he hit me up and he said, hey, I've got this 1031 money and I'm looking at this portfolio in Maine. I'm like, no. Let's not do Maine. Why don't you 1031 into Cape Woods? Blah, 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 blah.
For CMBS. So
We don't know anything about it. No. And he said, well, yes, but like, how about all this other stuff that might work? He sent me financials, and I think I put it into Claude before even sending it to Matthias because I was like, I don't even want to waste Matthias's time. Let's see. And then like put all the numbers together, and of course Claude is like, hey, the first thing that we need to discuss is this is way out of your normal area of expertise. It's like you don't have banking relationships, you don't have vendor relationships and everything. And I had to be like, look, Claude, first of all, just give me the numbers like I asked, please. But since you're going to be like that, the banks we work with are generally, national banks. The vendors, we go into a new place, we find new vendors. And so, like, it was me arguing with Claude about, like, okay, maybe this is. And then, the first pass looked okay. Had more calls with our friend and, the brokers there and see if it's actually something that we could do. And then sent numbers to Matthias to do his underwriting and whatnot. It's an interesting deal. It seems like it's going to work out really well, at least on the first pass. And, again, our first step is how do we kill this? And then when it can't be killed, it's like, okay, let's dig into it a little bit more. Matthias, what are you seeing numbers wise, and what are your thoughts on this main
yeah,
deal?
yeah. First time I saw it coming across my desk, I was like, Tim is going crazy again. He's expanding into a market we said we definitely not going to do in the future. And then he was like, listen, hear me out. I did some research, and I was like, okay, I will listen, my friend. So I dug a little bit deeper, and this is not a typical deal where we attracting basically the investor base that we have right now. Technically, we have an investor there, which is also a partner in a sense that brings his 1031 money and will be the only investor in that deal, so to speak. And that changes the entire return landscape entirely because his goal is cash flow and tax benefits. So rolling that into from a 1031 to this deal, he already achieved that by just closing that deal. And then if we structure this as a JV, we actually just need to hit this cash flow number, which this deal will with the purchase price as it stands. And we can actually keep the business plan very boring by just turning a couple homes over a year, like 6 a year or something like that, and we don't even infill. And if you look at the entire picture, I was like, yeah, that makes sense. It's a new market, so I did some research on the market because I have no idea about Maine. I've never been there in my life. And so, of course, used, Claude and different tools to did some market research. And of course, tenant landlord laws are way different compared to the Southeast. You have to be, really cautious about that and be aware of it as well. But that's something we can definitely dive into as we go on the contract, on due diligence. The good thing is that, that person that has a 1031 there, he can actually use his team and be boots on the ground with his contacts on site and actually manage it for us on site. And we use our back office to support him like we always do, right? We always have like this asset manager level, then we have the community manager level, and then the back office. And so we bring our resources with our technology, software, back office to the deal and support his team for the community manager side that's boots on the ground. So looking at the entire picture, it makes a lot more sense and makes sense to go after it. It won't be the typical offering we're doing like with Cape Woods and like with Alabama, obviously, because this is basically, we won't raise capital for it, right? But I think it helps also the audience to understand that, not every deal has to be the same. If Cape Woods, we do a little bit of a twist to it, and with Maine's a little bit of a twist to it. If we technically serving an investor, just one investor, fulfilling his need for tax benefits, right, and tax savings. So there's different ways to do this, and it's just another thing we can do at WCG Investments to serve our investors. And actually, it comes from like a person we didn't know to becoming an investor and now becoming a partner and a friend at the same time. It's some really nice evolution over a certain period of time. So I'm looking forward to actually going out there and be boots on the ground for a week or so, just to walk all these homes, get to know the market, get to know the city as well. Anything else I missed, Tim? That's my standpoint right now on Maine. Pretty excited about it, but there's still a lot to be explored.
Yeah, yeah. So what I like is that the flywheel that we have. So, people are like, "Oh, you guys are always under contract on something." And I'm like, "Yeah. Yeah, like intentionally because, stuff falls out and, sometimes things don't work, but sometimes everything does work." And it's like, "Well, yeah, like of course. Love the asset class. We love what we're able to do. We love building this. We love going in and fixing up communities." My weekly goal is to put out $10 million of LOIs a week, like cumulatively. And, a lot of times I hit it, a lot of times I don't. But like that's just how the goal is now. I know that the more offers we make, the more success we have. For everyone who's new, I always say, like, there's no cheat code that I found. It's just putting the work in. And so it's analyzing deals, putting offers out, hearing no, and then following up, and just keep following up, and accept that not every deal's for you, and that's okay. But like the more you do it, the more you'll find the deals that you are closing. It's cool to be here versus where we were just a couple of years ago.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it just shows that, the boring, repetitive work gets you to your goals eventually. And you don't just see that on social media or talking to people. It's just, there's a lot of like stacking on compounding in the background that gets you there. So, I mean, that's why they say like the route to success is built by failure. You just fail, and it's really just failure if you give up. But if you keep going, and we get rejected all the time with our offers, all the time. We actually are surprised. I feel like sometimes surprised, like, ooh, we got something. Because we make so many offers, and there's always a no or a hell no, and it's like, you guys are crazy. And then at some point it's just like, oh, here's a counter, and now we're dancing, and now we're negotiating. This is exciting. It's pretty cool to see that. I love sports, right? So if you look at like Michael Jordan's conversion rate, from like 2-pointers, and he's one of the best players ever. In my opinion, he is the best basketball player ever, but don't throw rocks at me if somebody's a LeBron fan. I like LeBron too, but I mean, Michael Jordan's 2-point conversion is 52%, which means he failed 48% of the time making 2-point shots. And he's still one of the best ever, and it's just how business works as well. You're not gonna have home runs and, make the perfect 2-point attempts and win championships every single time. You'll fall on your mouth so many times. But in the end, you learn from those mistakes. They make you better for the next swing you take and the next shot you're taking. I think that's what we do really well at WCG Investments, just to understand like, okay, that didn't work. Let's not do that again because that would be crazy. And, learn from there and do it better and better. And once we know what works, we stick to it. And I think that's what we're doing over and over again. Like every time we close on a deal like Alabama, it's the biggest deal we ever did so far yet. But the business plan is the same as we did several times before. It's the same thing, just bigger, and bigger means less risk. There's a lot more income, there's a lot more units. So I feel comfortable with the deal, which means we can aim even higher and just do the same business plan over and over again. So I think this is all the topics we had for today. Unless you want to bring something else into the fold, Tim, anything else that we missed that you want to talk about and bring up to the audience?
I'm excited about what we're doing, excited about what we're closing, excited about the business that we have. It gets better as we keep going. It's one of those things that, 6 years ago I couldn't have seen, and a lot of new people can't see it. It's like, oh, well, this doesn't pay me hardly anything at first. And it's like, correct. Like, it didn't for a while. And then just the more you do, the more it compounds. And the more, we've talked about, little rent increases across big portfolios. And, now it's the entire portfolio. As we're increasing, it just increases cash flow to everyone, increases net worth to everyone. And yeah, it just adds up. It definitely isn't something that you can see when you're new or when you have one or two deals under your belt. But I'd say, yeah, if it's something that's exciting for you, just keep going. Keep going. It gets better and better and better and better the better you get.
Well said, Tim. Absolutely. I feel the same way when I bought my first real estate investment property. I made like $500 of cash flow after all expenses considered. I was like, well, I have to do this 20 more times and I'll leave my job. It's going to take forever. But then you find other ways, you compound by a fourplex, then you go commercial, and then you get there fast as your thing would be possible. But when you start that long journey, and you see that gigantic mountaintop from the distance, like, oh man, it's going to take forever. But at some point, you take step after step. You get there eventually. You just have to keep going. With that being said, I think that's it for today. Thanks everyone for listening in, joining in. If you watched it on YouTube, hit the subscribe button. I always wanted to say that. Let's get subscriptions here.
Like and subscribe.
Yeah,
like and subscribe.
Exactly. That pushes the content up so more people can listen to this content. We want to serve as many people as possible with our knowledge and our journey. So thanks everyone for coming in, and see you guys next time.
Thanks.
Cheers.